Ladies and gentlemen, today we'll share a story as thrilling as a midnight horror, with a maid, a priest, and God talks like a dull soap opera. Angelo threw up his hands in despair, unable to snatch her from death's grasp. While heading back to the quarantine house, he had the priest and 2 kids in tow, making for quite a thrilling escape. After a night of thrilling adventure, the priest returned to the kids' home next morning. She gave Angelo her favorite Jerusalem specialty magical wine for his heroism. Angelo was filled with hope that the beautiful Princess Armida could use divine magic to save everyone. Arriving in the city centre, Angelo couldn't wait to freshen up but was mistaken for the #1 criminal, suddenly finding himself in the spotlight of the town. Confused, he was dragged into the chief's office. But the chief was more focused on packing his bags, ready to flee from chaos. Angelo had a comrade here, a magical cobbler. Talk about an odd pair. Meanwhile, the Austrian spies had already taken the lead by 1 step, forcing Angelo to flee desperately for his life. Luckily, some spies distracted the crowd, giving Angelo the chance to dart into a house, though he needed a bit of time to fix his wounds. Inside the house lay a long-gone lady and a lazy cat, which made the nosy townsfolk scream and scatter at this sight. Angelo scurried across rooftops, and that curious cat decided to follow him like it was a new episode of a reality show. Meanwhile, 3 Austrian spies were hightailing it from angry villagers, and 1 was totally overwhelmed, caught in chaos. After a sudden downpour, the freezing, Angelo had to sneak in through the skylight to talk about the mouse in a house. On the rooftop, Angelo spotted a little cat that seemed to have had quite the adventure itself. Cat, looking completely at ease, didn't mind Angelo's disheveled appearance, probably thinking he was an interesting Ultimately, Angelo had no choice but to sneak into another home through the skylight scenes. The cat really got him. The little cat followed him right in, heading straight for the dining room without a care. Barefoot, Angelo tiptoed down the 2nd floor, looking like he just crawled out of a mud wrestling match with water dripping off him. He resembled a sulky bowling. Suddenly, a girl in a white dress appeared, holding a candlestick as if she just walked out of a fairy tale. At this moment, Angelo looked like a criminal, fearing Polina would shut him out. To his surprise, Polina actually invited him in, and oh, she even had snacks ready. Turns out, Polina wasn't the owner, she was just house-sitting while her aunt had already bolted for safety. She whipped up bread and tea for him, making it feel like a royal feast. Subtitles. Angelo kept on apologizing, feeling remorseful for his disheveled appearance. However, after just a few words of conversation, he suddenly realized that maybe it was time to leave. But then Polina ran after him, bringing some plum wine, as if she had a surprise up her sleeve. But when he reached the table, he found Angelo had already dozed off, dreaming of the townsfolk fleeing outside. What a poor guy. The next morning, Angelo woke up at the table to the sound of clattering hooves outside, and hurried to Polina's room. However, he found an empty white dress cholera had spread through the town, and the government troops were busy disinfecting everything. Helpless, Angelo followed the troops into the mountains, pondering whether to keep searching for his comrades. At that moment, he ran into an acquaintance, the very cobbler he had been searching for, a member of the town's revolutionary army. In a secluded part of the mountains, Angelo wrote a letter to his mother, feeling the tug of London despite the rough travel conditions. By then, southern France had turned perilous, and the residents were suffering from cholera. Angelo was like a brave soldier, crossing the cholera zones to finally reach Manosque. He had no intention of staying and was set to return to Italy for his revolutionary mission. His comrades had gathered some funds for him to deliver to the fighters in Marseille. Thanks to cholera's interference, Angelo's plans had to shift. He first needed to take the money to Minans. But upon entering the Manosque border, he found himself blocked by the military talk about being stuck. Caught alongside him was a former comrade, Paul, who had betrayed the organization and colluded with Austrian spies to capture him. Tragically, he had caught cholera, and when the 2 former friends met, guilt washed over Paul, causing him to frantically flee. But with his condition deteriorating, he quickly fell off his horse. Watching Paul's miserable fate, Angelo couldn't help but feel a pang of sympathy. Then, Paul's illness kicked in as he desperately started vomiting to the west. Upon witnessing this, Angelo's thirst for revenge vanished. He simply forced some strong booze down Paul's throat. Polina, lurking in the shadows, watched the whole scene unfold. She understood deep down that if the spies hadn't caught Paul's father, he wouldn't have sold out his brother in arms, no matter what. While Angelo was tending to Paul, his horse got spooked and started bolting everywhere. To calm Angelo's horse, Polina focused intently on soothing the creature. But Polina wasn't actually scared. She was just tired of being around this crowd and wanted to escape the quarantine zone. Angelo agreed with her, yet the military's front blockade was tight.